Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Lina and today I want to celebrate this channel reaching 500 subscribers. I'm going to build a lot and answer the questions that I've received from you. But before I talk about those, I want to show you my gratitude. I really appreciate each and every one of you who enjoy my videos and show me your support. It makes me so happy that I can share my interest in The Sims and gaming in general with you. And I love hearing what you have to say about it as well. I've laughed a lot while reading your comments and look forward to seeing your answers to my polls every time. All of you are so sweet and have such creative ideas for the legacy. So thank you so much for being here, and I hope that I can continue to make videos for this channel for a very long time. As I briefly mentioned before, to celebrate, I'm going to answer the questions that you have sent me. Thank you so much to everyone who asked me something. I was really scared that nobody would send me questions, so I'm really happy that that wasn't the case. If you've missed my request for questions, I'm guessing that it's probably because you have community posts turned off, because I asked for questions in a community post. I'm going to answer them while building a party barn in St. Greer Islands, which is an empty world by GrewSim. I link the world down below. The version that's in my game is the light version. The barn is going to be right here on this 35 by 30 lot, and the lot type that I chose for it is a hangout. The lot is connected to the road with a dirt path, and across from it are some fields with crops. This area looks pretty rural, so I'm going to try and make this build look nice and idyllic, very much like the cottagecore aesthetic. At the back of the lot is a small brook that flows into the sea, which I think just looks so gorgeous. There are some barns behind the trees, as well as on the other side of the crop fields that I just mentioned. And I want the build to resemble a barn like this, that has been renovated to become a kind of living room for the community. I have to be honest, I practiced building this barn before I started filming, because I had found some CC that I really wanted to incorporate, and I just couldn't get it right. But eventually I figured something out that I'm really happy with, and that's what I'm going to show you now. If you've seen my Sims Legacy, you know that I built a party barn in Riverview where we celebrated Halloween, Christmas and prom. So I wanted to do a little throwback to that, but instead of making it a regular barn where Sims can throw parties, I gave myself the following prompt. What would be my dream location if all of you could jump into my Sims game and celebrate this milestone together? Since I'm not someone who enjoys going out at night, especially when there's like loud music and a lot of stimuli, I'm not going to make this a party barn like in Riverview, where the Sims can go to dance and stuff. Instead, I want to make a party barn with the emphasis on the tea. A party barn, because I love drinking tea. So this place is going to be like a cafe where you can order tea, coffee and pastries, and where you can play board games and just hang out. There's also a greenhouse part and an outside seating area, and a garden for the berries and the herbs that the owners of the cafe use in their menu items. If all of us were able to turn into Sims and hang out in the game, this would definitely be a really cozy place to do that. Now on to the questions. The first one I'm going to answer is by Blue Star. They asked, if you could change certain things about The Sims 3, like how the game was made or things you wished could have been added, what would you change? I think this was a really fun question to brainstorm about. The first thing that I thought about was, are there things in The Sims 2 that I like to see in The Sims 3? The answer is yes, so many. If I'd name all of them, we'd be here until tomorrow. But just to name a few, I'd really like it if your Sims could go to clothing stores, instead of them having access to everything in their closet. I also miss the ability to run a store, any store. I know we have the Savvy Seller set, but that just isn't as well executed as the Open for Business expansion pack. I also thought that the cutscenes were fun, that would show when your Sim would have their first kiss or get abducted by aliens. And lastly, I think that the way in which relationships work in The Sims 2 is so well done. For example, someone could be in love with your Sim, but your Sim didn't have to love them back. There's so much potential for drama and storytelling there. I'm going to interrupt this question for a second because I want to talk about the roof of the greenhouse. At first I wanted to use the one that's in Shake Shaft's greenhouse build kit. That's also where the windows and the door are from. but I think that the roof from this set isn't an actual roof and won't give your sim shelter from the rain and the snow and such. I haven't playtested it, but I'm pretty sure. So what I did instead is that I placed down the floor so that it doesn't rain and snow inside the room. And then I used a glass floor rock by Kenneline to make the floor invisible. And I could have placed Shakeshaft's greenhouse roof on it, which is 6 by 5 tiles big, but I found a slightly bigger one by XI Knight XX that is 6 by whatever size you pick, and I used that one instead. It works as a fence, so you yourself can decide how long you want the greenhouse to be. I think I made this one 6 by 6 tiles, since the glass floor rocks are 3 by 3, so that was the easiest. For some reason, it seems like there's no light coming into the greenhouse though, and I don't know why. Maybe I did something wrong, but I'll add lights later so it still looks really nice. But to continue to the question of what other things I'd like to see in The Sims 3, I also looked at The Sims 4 for inspiration, and after the season's expansion had come out, I remember seeing Ocean Sims' videos on holiday ideas, which I'll link down below. It's really cozy, but when I saw them fill in the calendar with all of these fun holidays, I wished that we could do the same in The Sims 3. I mean, I guess we can create and celebrate our own holidays in the game, but it's more official if there's an actual game feature dedicated to it. Another thing that I'd like to see from The Sims 4 are all of the options to create Sims with diverse identities. And when I say this, I'm not talking about the way The Sims 4 was when it was just released, because that was embarrassing. But right now it seems like the game is pretty inclusive when it comes to different cultures and identities, even though there's always still work to be done. And I feel like for The Sims 3 we have to pretty much rely on custom content creators for that. Talking about custom content and mod creators though, hats off to them because they add so much content to the game. Like if I want my Sims to get gender affirming surgery, there's a mod for that. If I want them to go on holiday or to another town that's not usually a travel location, there's a mod for that. There's probably way more things that I'd like to see in this game, but I can't think of them right now. But this would be a really good start, I think. Oh, there's actually one more thing that I'd like to add to the game. I know that there's the Create a World tool for The Sims 3, but it would be so fun if we could have more control over how the town looks. Much like in The Sims 2, where you could place roads, lots and decorations in the actual game instead of in an external program. That amount of customization would be really neat. The next questions that I got are from Marla Remval 9067. I'm sorry if I pronounce your name wrong. I'm really happy that you sent me so many questions. The first question is, when did you start playing The Sims? I'm going to guess that that was in 2004. My memory is a bit hazy because it's been 20 years, but I believe that the first Sims game that I played was The Sims Bustin' Out for the PS2, and that came out in December of 2003. A childhood friend of mine had that game, so we played it at her house and I loved it so much. When I got home that day, I remember telling my parents about it and trying to convince them to buy it for me by drawing the character creation screen. I wish I still had that drawing, but I was like, look, here you can change the hair and the face and the outfit. As someone who loved playing with dolls, having all of these options to create what is basically a virtual doll was so magical. And I think I didn't start playing The Sims 1 for PC until The Sims 2 was already released, because I was literally a child and had no idea that The Sims was an entire franchise. And I could be wrong here, but I got The Sims Complete Collection that came in this yellow box. And I think that the collection was sold this way because The Sims 2 was already out or something. But again, I could be wrong here. And then I didn't play The Sims 2 until at least the Seasons expansion pack had been released. That's also a funny story because little old me had seen the trailer for this expansion pack and was like, this looks amazing, I want to have it. And then eventually, probably after months of being an annoying little kid about it, I got the expansion pack. But what my parents and I didn't know was that you needed the base game to play the expansion pack. So when I told my dad, oh, I actually need another game in order to play this one, he was not amused. And then once I got older and understood the concept of The Sims as a franchise, I became a fan. but also a bit hesitant because The Sims is a pretty expensive hobby to have. I remember The Sims 3 coming out in the summer of 2009 and being so enthusiastic about it. I watched my friend play it as she moved her Sims into that swamp house in Sunset Valley. She had placed the fridge outside of the house on the grass, and we thought that was so funny. But yeah, I was just fantasizing about being able to play the game myself until I eventually got it as a present or something. That was a very long answer to the question, but I think that I also answered another question that you asked, which was, how did you discover the game? It was kind of a mix of seeing friends play the game and stumbling upon the trailers online. The next question that I got was, what's your favorite out of the 4 Sims games? Well, it's not The Sims 4. If you enjoy The Sims 4, don't worry, I can 100% see why The Sims 4 could be enjoyable to someone. For me personally though, it's not something that I like to play. To be completely honest, I've stopped following news about The Sims 4 ever since Journey to Batuu came out in 2020, and I must say that I don't miss hearing about all of the disappointments that EA is providing us with. The Sims 1 is also not my favorite, even though it is super iconic, and my only reason for that is that I was way too young when I was playing that game. I don't think that I fully understood what was going on until I watched other people play it on YouTube when I was an adult. And then here is where it gets kind of tricky, because my personal favorite is not necessarily the one that I think is the best. Let me explain. The Sims 2 has issues and limitations and things that could have been done better. I'm not denying that, but it also feels like it's the game with the most attention to detail and the most well thought out features. Plus it's still super wacky like in The Sims 1, and I love that a lot. It just has a lot of soul, and that's why I think The Sims 2 might be the best out of the 4 games. But that being said, The Sims 3 is my favorite. I've played that one the most in general, but also the most as an adult. So it's not just childhood nostalgia that makes me pick this one, I just love it. But I do wonder, if I were able to play The Sims 2 right now, would that become my favorite? My prediction is that if I ever become brave enough to sail the 7 seas for The Sims 2, if you know what I mean, and get a bunch of mods and CC for it, that The Sims 3 would get some serious competition. The next question I got is, if you could only play with 5 expansion packs, which would you choose? First of all, this is probably the most difficult question that I got, but maybe that's because it kind of depends on what mood I'm in. Sometimes I all of a sudden really want to go to university or want to have an occult sim, but I think that the following is my most stable list. Well, number 1 is World Adventures, because I love the ability to travel, and since it was the first expansion pack for this game, it's also the one that feels the most nostalgic to me, even though I fully agree with the core game mechanics being culturally insensitive. There's no denying that. Number 2 is Seasons, because it makes the world feel more alive and I love having holidays that my Sims can celebrate. Third is Ambitions, because I love doing laundry. Hot take. I'm not being sarcastic. And the expansion pack just adds a lot of content to the game that I miss when it's not there. Number 4 is Late Night, for the ability to create apartments. And I also just love Bridgeport in general. And the last one is going to be Pets, because I get so attached to these virtual animals, I wouldn't want to miss them. Then the next question is, do you remember the first family you ever played with in The Sims? I wish I could say yes, but unfortunately I can't. It must have been Bob and Betty Newbie in The Sims 1, if you don't count the character from The Sims Bustin' Out, but I don't remember that at all. What I do remember is loading into the Goth household in The Sims 1 with Mortimer, Bella and Cassandra, and being so impressed that their house had 2 stories, because in Bustin' Out everything is on the ground floor, so I wasn't used to houses having more than 1 story. It really made an impression on me, such high-tech wizardry. And the last question from Marla Ramval is, do you like Minecraft? That question made me giggle when I read it. I actually don't know if I do, because I've never really played it. A very long time ago I watched my friend play it and they were chatting to someone who kept saying that they liked bots and that they wanted everything to be a bot. Like a bot chair, a bot table, bot floor. That was literally my first encounter ever with Minecraft. But I'm guessing that you, the person who asked this question, like Minecraft, and if you do, I would really like to know what you enjoy about it. My boyfriend plays it as well sometimes. He mainly likes to build, but if I get that itch to build something, then I'd rather play The Sims. So I'm really curious what you like most about Minecraft. The next questions that I got are from XXLinX80. And again, thank you so much for sending me so many questions. The first question is, your shots are always relaxing and atmospheric. Thank you. What are your tips for editing? I'm not sure if I have any profound insights because quite frankly, I'm not following any professional rules or anything. I'm just doing whatever I think looks good. But as for making the game look atmospheric, I do think that using reshade helps a lot with making the game colors match your taste, if that makes sense. To add reshade to my game, I followed a cotton socks tutorial because it is very confusing to me. So I definitely recommend watching that video if you want to add reshade to your game. I'll link it down below. I'm using a preset by Buttercup Sims. It's called the Butterskies Reshade preset. It did look strange when I installed it though, but then I just messed around with it for a while and it ended up looking like what I have now. I guess I'm just lucky that I got it to work out eventually, since I don't think I could recreate it, but I'll link that down below as well. I want to quickly go back to the build because I put some wall decorations on an OMSP and I'd never done that before, so it might be fun to mention. The wall decorations can be placed down as freely as regular decorations though, since they are still limited by the specific slots on the wall, so you can't really move them horizontally, but there is more freedom to move them up and down. I thought that was pretty useful for making a custom photo wall. When I need to film an atmospheric shot or if I need to take screenshots, I usually get rid of the UI by pressing F10 in live mode, and I also use the tab key to go into, I don't know what it's called, just tab mode. You probably know this already, but it's a more flexible camera, so that makes it easier to frame the shot in a way that looks good to you. And as for tips for editing, I don't know if I have any, to be honest. Before I started making videos for this channel, I had practically zero experience with video editing. I just watched other Simmers play the game, and through watching their videos, I got a rough idea of what I liked. For instance, I find Devin Bumpkin's Let's Build videos for The Sims 4 so relaxing, and I really appreciate how he makes sure to move the camera in a way that doesn't make you nauseous as a viewer. I try to get better with that myself, but sometimes I still forget that suddenly going to map view is not really nice to look at. But I think the Simmer that has inspired me the most is Antisocial Bunny. They make Sims 2 videos and there are so many elements of my videos that can be traced back to their videos. Like, I love the attention to detail that they put into their builds and how they zoom in on funny moments that happen while playing the game. And if I had never seen their videos, I probably wouldn't have gotten into making machinimas like this, because theirs are so good. Secretly, this video is just an ad to check Antisocial Bunny's channel out. Back to the build for a second. When I started decorating the entrance, I started to feel a bit uninspired. I didn't really like how the items looked that I placed down, so I took a break and returned to the build a few days later. The problem was probably that it didn't really look like a cafe, so I decided to add some shelves with baked goods and picked fruits. To make everything fit, I had to move the counters in front of that one barn door, but that's okay because those barn doors that are next to the glass entrance door aren't meant to be opened. I think having your sim lock these doors in live mode prevents sims from using them, and everything should be fine that way. I didn't encounter any problems while I was playtesting this build, at least. But I guess my main tip for editing is find out what it is about other people's editing style that resonates with you, and keep those things in mind when you start playing around with the things that you yourself make. So I'm not saying copy what someone else is doing, there's literally no fun in that, but really use it as an inspiration. Start practicing and experimenting with that, and if you're having fun with it, eventually you'll get something that makes you really happy. I think that's the most important thing, especially when you remind yourself that if I'm just having fun, it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to cater to anyone else's taste but mine. Maybe that wasn't the advice that you were hoping for, but I genuinely don't have any practical advice except find out what you like and start experimenting with that in your own work. And as a disclaimer, I want to say that I view what I do here on YouTube as a hobby, so that really influences how I talk about making and editing videos. I put a lot of emphasis on having fun and trying to make videos mainly for yourself, so if what I've just said doesn't resonate with you, then I'm probably not the right person to give advice on this topic. Let's move on to the next question. Have you played the official families in the game? Which family or sim is your favorite? Yes, I love playing with the households in Sunset Valley, especially playing rotationally with all of the families in town. And because I feel attached to almost the entire town, I find it really difficult to choose one favorite family or a favorite sim. So instead, I'm going to tell you my favorite Sunset Valley ships. Morgana Wolf should divorce Thornton and get together with Layton Sekimoto so that they can have 5 children together. Phoebe Hart deserves the world, and I think that Michael Batchelor is going to be able to take care of her, as long as he never meets Dina Caliente. River McIrish should save Holly Alto from her family, and they should become artsy lesbians together. PJ Elvie and Lisa Bunch should get together as well and become the most evil couple in town. And I really think that Gobias Coffee deserves to find a man, but none of the single men are good enough for him. So I usually make Thornton have an affair with him, even though I'm not sure if that's the right thing for Gobias. I also really like having Fiona McIrish and Connor Frio have a secret workplace relationship. The next question is, if you could choose, which map would you like to live in The Sims 3? Exactly this is the kind of stuff that I think about in my free time. I'm guessing that you mean, where would I, Lina, like to live in The Sims if the maps would exist in real life? I'm afraid that my answer is going to be a bit boring because it's Sunset Valley. I'm so familiar with that town, I'd love to live there, even though it would probably also a bit uncanny and a bit awkward to see the Sims that you've controlled in real life. Like, oh, there's Gunter God. I once made him cheat on his wife with her sister. Now I want to talk about the quote-unquote living room area a bit, because my vision for it went through some changes. I was looking at images of barns that had been turned into places to hang out, or even houses with actual living rooms, and everything that I saw reminded me a lot of The Sims 4 Horse Ranch. So that's what I went for at first, especially with the leather couches. But in those images that I saw, almost all of the interiors featured the flag of the United States, and I don't live in the US, so I decided to try and make a pride flag instead. This was pretty tricky, but eventually I figured it out. This flag made the room a lot more colorful, even though I made the colors pretty desaturated, and it gave me a lot of inspiration for the rest of the room, so I let go of the horse ranch aesthetic and made it more playful? I think that's the right word. The next question is, before starting a new legacy challenge, do you prefer to build a rich background, relationships and friends for your family, or choose the characteristics for the sim and let the sim make friends freely in the game? Probably more the latter. I'll take the legacy that I'm currently playing as an example. When I made the family, I didn't think of a very elaborate story for them beforehand. Instead, I sort of had a vague personality in mind for all of the family members. And then when I started playing, I kind of let the game take the wheel to see what will happen. It's kind of a back and forth between the game and me. So I start with a vague idea and then the game makes some decisions for me, and based on that, I try to get a better idea of what that sim is like. And I'll get ideas on what would be fun to do with that sim. And I feel like I do have to make a distinction here between our main character, Ricky, and the rest of his family. Because for Ricky, I do have a very clear idea of where I want his story to go and what kind of sim I want him to become. He's the first sim in a family of like more than 20 generations that I've roughly planned out. To be exact, I have written down ideas for the next 24 generations. So if I'm able to keep this legacy up, we'll be here for a while. So while we're following Ricky and while there's room for spontaneity, I do have to make sure that eventually I create a good situation for what I have in mind for the next sim in line. I already have a vague idea of what I want this heir to be like, so while I'm following a more strict path with the founder and the heirs, a lot of the Sims around them are to a certain extent free to do what they want. What I'm talking about here kind of ties into another question that you asked, which is, have you ever thought about starting a new series? The answer is yes, but I'm so invested in oh my god. I'm so invested in the legacy. Like I said, my goal is to play with over 20 generations. So I'm so invested that any other series that I'm thinking of at the moment will probably be connected to the legacy in one way or another. They will probably be some kind of spin-off. At least that's something that sounds really cool to me. To just have this big Sims universe in which all of the series exist together. But as a disclaimer, I will say that even though I have all of these ideas, I'm not sure if I'll be able to turn them into reality. I'd love to, but it's so ambitious that we'll just have to see. And then the last question is, have you played other challenges before this legacy challenge? Kind of, not officially, but when I was studying, I had a laptop that couldn't handle much. So I played only the base game for a long time, which was still really fun, but eventually I slowly started adding more expansion packs to see what my laptop could handle. So in a way I played a legacy challenge, so a legacy where with every generation you add the next expansion pack. But I kinda cheated because I added those expansion packs while I was still on generation 1. So I didn't follow the legacy rules or anything. Even right now with my current legacy, I'm not following any official rules. I'm just playing according to my own checklist of everything that I want to do within this generation. So yeah, those were all the questions that I received. Thanks again for sending them to me. I appreciate it a lot. I'm not used to talking about myself for so long, and I'm really curious about your experiences with the game. So if you want to answer any of these questions yourself, please feel free to do so. I would love to read your answers, and I'm guessing that other people would also love to read about it. And in addition to that, I also have another question for you. I sometimes get asked if the builds that are in my videos are up for download, and that's not the case at the moment, for the simple reason that I don't know how to do it. I myself am not used to downloading lots from other people, so I'm not familiar with that part of the Sims community. Like, I tried looking up a guide for how to upload builds, and I sneaked a peek at how other Simmers upload their builds, and I just got so overwhelmed that I just put it off for now. I'd rather spend the energy that it would take me to figure all of that out on making more episodes for the legacy. So my question for you is, do you think that it is, I don't know what the right word is, if it's unusual if I don't upload a build even if I posted a speed build of it? Like, what's the etiquette here? Is it okay if I build something on camera or show one of my builds in a video but don't upload that build for others to download? I genuinely don't know. The build is almost done. I'm working on the board game room now and I'm just adding some finishing touches. But before we go to the overview, I want to quickly say something about my Stardew Valley Let's Play. I have to admit something. I have been playing in my save file off camera. I found it a bit difficult to combine two series at the same time, so the Sims Legacy and the Stardew series. So I decided to discontinue my Stardew series, but instead I have some ideas for standalone Stardew videos that will still be from that same save file. So there will probably still be some updates on it here and there, but it won't be an episodic thing anymore. I hope you understand, and just know that this isn't the end of Tina Tea Leaf and the Tea Leaf Farm. And to emphasize that, I've made some Sims for the overview of this build that you may recognize, including Tina Tea Leaf. I'll let them show you this lot in action. I've play tested it and everything should work, so I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, thank you so much for being here and sharing your love for this game with me. I really appreciate it. And as I said before, I hope that I can continue with this hobby of making videos for a very long time, and that I'll see you next time. Bye everybody, take care!
What? Abare. Whiz.
Medicine. Nash to be.